conference announced the plan of Israeli partition 29th of November 1947. Fighting broke out immediately. The Jordanian king proclaimed, "We will drench the soil of our beloved country with our last drop of blood." On May 14, 1948, Israel was established and the Arabs ended up with much less land than they would have had they accepted the original partition plan. The Six-Day War is the third Arab-Israeli conflict, and it broke out over water dispute when the Jordanian and Syrian governments decided to build a dam over the River of Jordan and thus cut off Israeli water supplies. At the end of the war, Israel captured the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt and the Gaza Strip, the West Bank from Jordan, East Jerusalem and the Golan Heights from Syria. Resolution 242 was adopted after the Six-Day War by the UN Security Council. It asked for the right to live in peace and for territorial provisions. All Arab countries except Syria conformed to the resolution. It has been the object of much debate as it does not address the issue of Jerusalem, Palestine, nor the right of return or the refugee problem. Despite common misconception, it is not a land for peace agreement. The first Intifada broke out in 1987 and was triggered by the mass demolition of Palestinian property by the IDF as a part of the Israeli Iron Fist strategy. The first Intifada came out at a time when Palestinians were protesting against Israeli acts which they perceived to be a brutal political stalemate with parties involved in the Arab-Israeli conflict. The Oslo Accords signed in 1993 marked the end of the first Intifada, and they were a milestone in the Arab-Israeli conflict. It was the first direct agreement between the State of Israel and the representatives of the Palestinians. It provided for the creation of the Palestinian Authority, who carried responsibility for the administration of the territory under its control.
Yasser Arafat was the symbol of the Palestinian Revolution, a man who started a small organization, Fatah, and succeeded in establishing a country recognized by the entire world. He was the chairman of the PLO, president of the State of Palestine, and chairman of the Palestine National Authority. Yitzhak Rabin was an Israeli politician and general. He was the fifth Prime Minister of Israel, serving 2 terms in office. He was assassinated by a right-wing Israeli radical who was opposed to Rabin's signing of the Oslo Accords. Arafat had a very dynamic personality with the following traits: motivation, charisma, persuasive nature, determination, empathy, courage, and integrity. Rabin was a man who exemplified Edwin Locke's trait theory. He possessed all the key leader traits such as drive, leadership motivation, honesty, integrity, self-confidence, cognitive ability, and knowledge of both war and peace. In 1941, Rabin played a vital part in the independence of Israel through his activities with the Palma, a secret paramilitary action of the Jewish resistance. He rapidly rose to become the commander of the Palma by impressing his superiors with his excellent analytical abilities and creativity. He gained the respect of his men as pace-setter, leading many daring raids personally. He was a man of great humility who seeked neither glory nor fame for himself. This was a trait which endeared him further to his men. During this period, he was known to be a blunt man, uncompromising in his beliefs. In 1964, he finally became the IDF Chief of Staff. His extreme confidence in his own abilities, coupled with his coercive leadership style, caused him a great deal of distress when dealing with those opposing his views. Rabin's posting as a US ambassador opened his eyes to a world away from war for the first time. He was able to develop and show another form of leadership that managed to persuade notable leaders to back his views through his intelligence and sheer force of character. Even though the Intifada was not a strong moment in his political career, it was an extremely important moment in his development as a future leader. At the beginning of the Intifada, he tried to implement a heavy-handed policy and was known as the Rabin, the bone breaker. Near the end, he considered for the first time through his first-hand experience that the Palestinian issue is not a problem that can be resolved by force. He took this newfound quality of consensus building and peace as the center point of his election campaign for Prime Minister of Israel. He developed empathy and additional communication skills to help heal the wounds caused by centuries of warfare and motivated both the majority of Arabs and Israelis to embrace the path of peace, eventually resulting in the signing of the Oslo Peace Accord. He became a leader whose style was far more affiliative. He began to collaborate with his long political rival Shimon Peres as well as his bitter enemy Yasser Arafat.
Because the real solution to the problem is the political arena, without giving up to terrorism.
In 1944, Arafat enrolled in the Cairo University to study civil engineering. Although not a leader yet, young Arafat showed self-awareness and had a clear vision and goal for Palestine's freedom. In 1948, he joined Arab forces fighting against Israeli troops. He was focused, aggressive, and determined during this war, which was his first official actions towards the liberation of Palestine. The first signs of Arafat leadership came through when he established the Fatah, meaning conquest, in 1959. Being a one-mission man, he was aggressive and authoritative. His tactical leadership helped Fatah gain monetary support from the rich Arabs. He was very persuasive and influential, and by the end of 1964, Fatah's manpower had increased tremendously. In 1964, Arafat was appointed as the chairman of Palestine Liberation Organization or PLO. He displayed superiority and functioned efficiently under pressure. The Palestine Freedom Movement under his leadership was very aggressive during this time. The change in Arafat's leadership style came through when he suspended the Black September following a violent attack at Munich Olympic Games in 1974 and then proposed a compromise with the Israelis. This change in leadership could be due to the fact that Arafat could empathize with the fellow Palestinians and from the realization of the bloodshed caused by the armed struggle. He signed the Oslo Accord with Israeli President Rabin in 1993. This was his choice of diplomacy as a strategy for attaining his objective of free Palestine. This led to the official recognition of Palestine by Israel. During this time, his leadership changed from being very aggressive and violent to being more concerned about peace and people. He also demonstrated an ability to adapt to new tactical and political situations.
The recent war in Gaza has impacted many people's lives at both sides of the border. Will there be light at the end of this dark tunnel?
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
The American people have recently voted for change. Tired of the old carrot and stick politics that has been going on for the past 8 years, the US population has voted the administration that now wants to seek peace and have a stronger role in the Middle East. In recent days, Israel has witnessed elections, with a hardliner government being elected in to sustain Israel's security, yet still attempting to broker a peace agreement with the Palestinians. At the same time, the Palestinian Authority led by Mahmoud Abbas and the leadership of Hamas have been meeting in an attempt to form a national unity government. So the question is, does the new leadership across the Middle East have what it takes to achieve peace? A similar conflict started between the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland in 1964 to 2007. This conflict has led to 3,720 deaths and many more injured. Two strong, dedicated leaders, Tony Blair and Bertie Ahern, stood up and agreed to what's known as the Good Friday Agreement that stopped the conflict. This agreement was brokered by George Mitchell, who chaired the peace process. The conflict in the Middle East shares many similar issues to that of Northern Ireland, and consequently there are many lessons to be learned from this. With Senator George Mitchell being appointed as Middle East envoy, hope for a similar peaceful outcome may rise. We recommend that the Israeli and Palestinian leadership adopt the vision of the late Prime Minister Rabin and President Arafat, to learn from the drive and determination of ex-Prime Minister Tony Blair and Bertie Ahern to seek peace. The opportunity for peace is stronger now than ever before, but a radical change in leadership style will be required.